If there's one thing that I still have to learn even after 4 years of YouTube, then it is to make reviews about devices I can't really recommend anyways, just shorter. The thing though is, I want to give you all the information on why that is the case. Therefore I sometimes sound like I would emphasize more on the bad stuff than on the good stuff, which is the case, but I can't really change anything about that. Also not about the fact that I talk too fast. I will try though to find a proper balance here today. So let's get into the design and build quality of the Umidigi Z1 Pro. The design is definitely not the issue, because this phone is actually built very well, very solid, sturdy, nice tactile feedback and audible feedback of the buttons, and it feels great in the hand, especially due to the design. And here is something that I have to point out. This is supposed to have a 4000 mAh battery, but why I think that's actually a little bit suspicious is, therefore it almost feels too lightweight and too compact. So if they really manage to squeeze a 4000 mAh in here, then a lot of kudos, because it's actually quite manageable in one hand. It feels incredibly lightweight and really nice though. In terms of design, it looks like pretty much every other phone these days out there, and I've seen on GearBest at least like 3 or 4 that look exactly the same. But let's forget that. I check here the cam. As you can see, it protrudes a little bit with the LED. Of course, headphone jack, SD card and SIM card tray, USB Type-C on the bottom. Also the speaker on the right and the mic on the left. Buttons are placed really nice. We have a notification LED, we have a fingerprint reader, and if the screen is already on, that one actually works quite fast, as you can see here, and reliable. The issue though is the whole unlocking mechanism with the screen turn on through the fingerprint reader, as you can see, just takes way too long in my appearance. But otherwise I have no complaints. It feels actually super nice in the hand. Build quality is nice, also flat with a nice transition. So all this is good. Now what's not that great? The display, not really yet the issue, because as you can see it's an AMOLED display and therefore we have the flickering, so don't really mind that so much. But what I was a little bit weirded out about was the out of the box calibration, because standard looks wrong to me, vivid looked wrong to me, and I had to use user mode and actually tweak a lot of things like contrast, saturation, picture brightness and all that to get it look, I would say, more right, because out of the box it was just way too dark, way too over contrasty, and the display actually is quite good. 570 lux is actually a lot, but for an AMOLED display this doesn't end up in the very best sunlight readability. I have to say though, if you get used to the little bit too darker appearance, still take out a lot of contrast, you get an absolutely nice display. It's, I would say, really good, but not more because of the just off calibration, and you can't completely fix that. Now the speaker, let's check that one. If I have to say one thing, this speaker is loud, very loud, and that's definitely its advantage over many other ones, but it also tends to distort at least the last 10%, but otherwise the quality is fine, it's good. It tends to distort though, no matter what you do, a little bit, and the overall sound is a little bit more on the hollow, shallow side, but it's not bad. It's actually quite okay for the normal job, but don't expect too much in terms of quality. It's the volume, especially notifications are insanely loud. I've never heard notifications that loud, and so many times they completely freaked me out when they turned in. Headphone jack is fine, absolutely no problems here. So let's jump into the performance. And here is where I'm a little bit mixed about it, because the device is actually quite snappy for a Helio P20 phone, but the thing is, it's a very, and not even inconsistent performance, inconsistent scrolling is what bothered me more. Because, for example, here if you go into the browser, here the issue is less visible, because wait a little bit for it to render. Okay, as you can see here, this is actually fine. It's not super smooth, definitely not, but at least here it's very consistent. It's just not the smoothest. It feels a little bit kind of flashy, it's a little bit jittery. Now the performance here in Flamingo is really good. This one would have almost gotten a very good, because this feels smooth, this feels consistent. But then there are things like, for example, here in Palabre, if I see all the here articles, as you can see here, this is still smooth. But the problem is, and this is something you will see on some other apps, if you go into the article and you make it bigger, then the flick is just very unnatural, because as you can see, sometimes a small flick just scrolls way too much. As you can see, this shouldn't be that fast, and it's a little bit hard to demonstrate it, but believe me, sometimes I just make a small flick and it scrolls way too much, and sometimes I make the same one, and this is something that you have to get used to. But it is hard to get used to something that is just so inconsistent, because otherwise The weird thing is 6 gigs of RAM, which I don't think was necessary in such a device. 4 gigs would have been totally fine because the multitasking is fine. One thing so that I have to point out, check your background tasks, because you really have to enable which one you want to use, because I clicked the wrong one and I was super weirded out that Smartest Launcher was killed off all the time. So really check that, because otherwise it's very aggressive, but you can manage it. Gaming performance is, I would say, absolutely fine, no need to talk about that. So let's just already talk about the battery. And I'm not 100% sure if this really is a 4000 mAh battery, because for a Chinese imported phone, 2 hours and 15 for 4000 mAh, so the charge time feels almost too fast for me. It is possible with quick charge for sure, but still, I don't know. But actually, if I would just see it from a battery life standpoint, it should be the case, because 12% for now of YouTube is maybe just average, especially for an AMOLED display. But the battery life was something that actually surprised me a lot. And I also have to say, with 1 grain of salt, is that even though I used this phone for like a week on mobile data, it was here at my home, because I have 3 weeks off and I wasn't at work, so I don't have the same conditions as usually, so the drain on mobile data felt a little bit too good in my experience, because it was pretty much the same result as on Wi-Fi. So on Wi-Fi I would have gotten like maybe 9 to maybe sometimes even 10 hours and 8 to 9 on mobile data. I think that the difference should be bigger, but even if, let's say, 7 hours or so, if it would be weak on mobile data, I don't think it would be even more so. This is still fantastic battery life, so I've seen that, especially in use, the drain is really great, and the standby drain is really remarkable, because almost non-existent. Not on mobile data, like I said, here at home, and not on Wi-Fi, so no matter what they did here, no matter how big the battery is, it's great. Now, let's talk about, and I've switched it wrong, about the software. Stock Android, as you can see here. Side scrolling though, launcher, because this is using launcher free. Quick settings are black, but that's pretty much the only difference. The rest is stock Android. We are running 7.0 here. I think I got 1 update, but not more. You can rearrange the buttons, but not really do much else besides that. Of course, you could also hide them, but then the issue is you can use this as a button, but I think this is just a way too clumsy workout, because you can change what the button does, but believe me, that's not good. Eyebrow mode would be just the eye comfort mode. Not sure why they called it that. Background task clear, like I said, really check if all your apps that you need are cleared here. LED notifications, of course, can be changed. Dura speed, something you don't really need to. 6 gigs of RAM, as you can see here. I usually didn't use more than 2 gigs, so let's say sometimes 3, but definitely not ever 6. Otherwise, you don't really get much extra. So the one thing maybe to point out is for the speaker, you have a sound enhancement option of bass loudness. So if you turn that off, it's noticeably less loud, but at least then it doesn't distort so much. But I would still keep it on, because you can just lower the brightness anyways, and then you get a good experience. So 7.0, I don't think Chinese phones will get the best update support for a longer period of time. So maybe you are where you are here at. I don't think actually it will get Oreo, but that's the case on most Chinese imported phones. You pretty much mostly get what you get out of the box. But let's forget about it and get into the camera. Now, the front-facing camera, I still have to actually say, is really good. Quite close up, a little bit further off, and even further. It maintains an actually sharp picture. Of course, here this was in very harsh light, so don't think too much about that. But yeah, I will give this a really good, because as you can see here, everything looks detailed, everything looks nice in my opinion. And yeah, really good. Nothing I will say otherwise. Now, let's check video. And also that one, I have to say, works out really good. It's clean, it's smooth, colors look nice, and even indoors. The speaker sounded a little, or I mean the microphone picked up the sound a little bit muffled, but other than that, you can see the quality is still absolutely fine. Now, low light here with the flash, without the flash, not that great, especially since low light is definitely not its strength. As you can see, quite blurry, quite grainy. So I would say decent at the best. Outside, I would say it is also maybe decent, because as you can see here, this is with HDR, so forget that it overexposed pretty much every time, and this is the bokeh mode, which just does work out. So just forget that feature. I don't know why they are doing this if it works out so bad. The quality otherwise is okay. Autofocus and shutter is not that fast, so the overall experience is not the very best one. As you can see here, once again, HDR, just really don't need to talk about that. As you can see here, once again, HDR is not all that great. Pictures though can turn out good, not with bokeh though, absolutely not, and sometimes the white balance is off. So don't expect too much of this cam, especially not in the 4K department, because I think the Helio P20 just can't handle 4K. As you can see, it's stuttering like crazy all the time. And yeah, the quality isn't all that great anyways, because if we already switch to 1080p, which pretty much has the same amount of quality, This is smoother though. I have to say, for some reason, it has no autofocus, but it doesn't really matter because nothing really seems in focus and nothing really seems ever out of focus, because my hand, I couldn't really see if it's supposed to be in focus or not, but it seems like nothing is really in focus because it just doesn't have autofocus. So the camera quality, I would just say, let's forget it and jump right into the pros and cons. Here, I still have to give it a few things. Really good build quality. It's actually also quite compact and lightweight, almost too lightweight in my experience. Then reliable fingerprint reader and notification LED is available. Then really good display, not very good though, off calibration and a little bit maybe some lack of some proper qualities. Very loud and good speaker, crazy loud notifications, a really good performance, just not properly consistent. Fantastic battery life. Stock Android for everyone who wants that. Camera-wise, really good front-facing cam, a really good video for front-facing also, decent low-light cam, and a quite good, at best, maybe main cam. Now, what's not that great, and actually, these are a little bit some more important parts. First of all, quite slow screen turn-on time. You will get used to that, I guess. The front fingerprint reader is there, but we don't have capacitive buttons, and that's why I think it's a waste of space. Then, default display calibration was way off. Speaker a little bit hollow and it tends to distort, wonky scrolling sensitivity, poor video cam and no auto video focus. You need auto video focus, I meant video autofocus. You need a third party app for that and it usually has to be imported. So let's actually quickly get that out of the way. The good sides are good. The bad sides are quite bad though, especially things like the inconsistent performances, jumpy scrolling where you can't always do the same and get the same reaction is something that bothered me a lot. Something that will also bother a lot of people is the quite poor video cam. But the biggest issue here of this device is the price. From GearBest, where I got it from, it was like $260 if I'm not mistaken by now. And this is just way too much. This should be closer to $150. Not considering the good qualities, because on that regard I could maybe go closer to $200. But considering the bad sides, it's just too expensive, and that's why I will keep it short. It's not a bad phone, but the cons are just too big to just ignore them or try to smoothen them out, try to sugarcoat them. For the price, it's just not good enough. If it would be closer to 150 or so, if you find it somewhere for that price, or maybe even lower, it's fine, because there are great things about it. Like I said, the design is nice, the display is still really good, the speaker is loud, maybe not the best quality. We got a solid experience in terms of performance, even though a little bit weirded out, and the battery life is definitely the biggest advantage. Camera quality definitely no. So let's just end this here, and you can let me know what you think, and down there below, maybe with also a like and a subscription. Okay, until next time, bye.